Welcome back. It's time for round 2. That's right, we've been through everyone's first story, unlocked everyone's second story. After Devin's first story here seems to directly reference the events in Laverna's story. I already decided that we're going to return to visit her. I forgot this was locked. Now I'm also wondering if that actually gave us a brass lock or not. Didn't actually consider that fact. Interestingly, a large majority of people who voted a few days back seemed interested in me just sticking with this cycle of working my way through each story, episode by episode, just sort of staggering them, which I can do. I have no objections to that. You gonna unlock this card by using a bronze key? Yes, I do. Rouge or Noir? Man, that was a high building. Highest in Panthea, probably. Whenever I saw massive skyscrapers like that, one question always entered my mind. Do they really need all that space? It always feels to me that there's no way that a business actually needs to use up all that space. Well, I was no business manager, and I was bad at conceptualizing big things, so it was probably justified. And if it was justified for any company, it'd definitely be Olympo. With how many pies they had their fingers in, it's no wonder that they'd need a lot of space to house their workers. What didn't feel necessary was how much space they took up of this urban area in Panthea. How much of that space was empty space reserved for aesthetics. Well, it made the area stand out at any rate. Anyways, time to enter the building. I'd been in this lobby before, but I still took a moment to take in the area. The place had a wide receptionist area, restrooms, multiple waiting areas, even a breakfast cafeteria in-house. Anything you could reasonably want. Anything to make sure your employees don't leave. That's right. If you give your employees amazing amenities, it is the slippery slope to absolutely expecting your employees to stick around outside work hours. Why would you want to go home and have a life on your own when you could stay here and do more work and have go at the pool table and the sweet breakfast and shit? What I'm saying is don't buy into all those sappy Google campus bullshit. Only the best for Olympo, I supposed. I could respect that on some level. I approached the receptionist. Greetings, I am Laverna, the detective. It is my understanding that your business is in need of my services. Why not? I'll be happy to dispense my aid, however necessary. Okay, so we're not getting a direct follow-up on the 2 murders at the party. So that's going to be a lingering mystery for a while. A chance to pursue the truth is the only payment I require. Of course, a healthy check certainly would not dull my spirits. Regardless, be sure to inform your masters of my arrival. In the meantime, I shall be lounging in one of your plentiful waiting areas. No need to direct me with one. I am familiar with this floor's layout. And just like that, I turned my way and made my way to the waiting area. There was no need to actually have her respond. I'd leave a more striking impression on her this way. So I circled the reception desk and walked over to the waiting area. I expected the wait to be dull. No, perhaps dull was the wrong word. Uneventful. One that would let me collect my thoughts, perhaps waste some time on my phone. But instead, the waiting room was occupied by 2 familiar faces. Lav! Hey, Baldera. You're kidding. I held similar sentiments to Seth. What were the odds? Still, Baldera rushed over to give me a hug, and I felt compelled to reciprocate. Honestly, maybe it wasn't that big a coincidence to run into each other. There was a lot of overlap between private investigators and police, after all. Last time we had met, was when investigating the murders at Governor Aisha's private gala. Unfortunately, that ended up in a dead end. Despite our best efforts, we were never able to find any evidence leading back to the killer. Ultimately, while there was still an investigation, the unknown third party had come and gone without leaving any trace we could find. The unexpected second body didn't end up giving us any hints. Later forensic evidence did reveal a few interesting details about the case. Apparently, when we found the body, he had been dead for several hours. He had originally been killed with a blow to the back of the head around the time that the gala was starting up and people were making their way in. Forensic scientists were able to tell that, as expected, the bell wasn't the murder weapon. However, the real murder weapon was unable to be located. Most curious was the fact that Maximilian Collins wasn't actually on the invite list to Aisha's gala. Despite the decent amount of clout he possessed. That raised the question of what he was even doing there. As a nephew of the late Veronica Collins, he had some connections, so perhaps he meant to meet or confront a guest at the gala. Veronica Collins, while alive, was one of the few non-family members known to be close with Odin Daisma, the Miracle Man. It felt like that somehow this connection was what got Maximilian killed. But we lost our first bet, because our first bet was, did Athen die first or did Max die first? Athen died during the party, and now quite clearly Max died before the party, so we voted with a pretty clear majority that Athen died first, so we lost that bet. But while correlation seemed apparent, the exact causation completely eluded us. Ultimately, as there were no forensic pieces of evidence that Maximilian's case led to, the whole double murders were still under investigation. Under investigation without much hope of being solved without a new breakthrough. That was disappointing, but life and crimes waited for nobody. So when I was contacted to help investigate a case of a corporate theft at the Olympo Corporation, naturally, I jumped at the chance to help out. What are you doing here? For the same reason you're here, I presume. The Daisma's hitting you up too? I must have left an impression upon them during our last encounter. Oh, I don't doubt that much. Seth, eccentricity appeals to eccentrics. Eccentric? Is that how you see yourself? People are multifaceted, trying to condense an existence within a singular adjective. I broke into a coughing fit. God, my throat was hoarse. Luckily, there was a water cooler nearby. Walked over and poured myself a cup. You okay there, Lav, darling? Oh, I'm fine. My throat must be a touch strained from karaoke last night. You went karaokeing? Jealous. Why didn't you give me a call? Oh, don't take it as a slight, Baldera. I was performing karaoke solo. Wait, so you went to a karaoke bar by yourself? Indeed, spectacular listening comprehension, Seth. You see, if you go by yourself, you don't have to waste any time listening to others, and instead can spend the entire time singing yourself. Pretty brilliant, no? If you say so. Seth has been holding his tongue more often as of late. You're pretty brilliant if you're a rabid, eccentric narcissist. Anyways, I'm surprised it is just the two of you joining me in this fine day. I'd expect at the very least Ariane to be here in your stead. No, I'm afraid it's just us today. And thank God for that. Seth! What? I'm just saying it how it is. I do my work better when I don't have that cyborg breathing down my neck. Ariane is perfectly nice. She just seems off-putting because she's not, the best with social cues and all. I'm sure that's true, totally. I just don't know her well enough. So then you can get to know her better through investigations. Yeah, no. See, I think that's the problem. I doubt I'm gonna get anywhere with her during investigations. Baldera turned to me, clearly wanting to move on. Well, you could ask her out, Seth. Unfortunately, Ariane couldn't swing by here. Actually, no, I don't know if she's... A polite, friendly dinner. Not everything has to be romantic. Unfortunately, Ariane couldn't swing by here. We're pulled a little thin at the moment. Just shooting straight with you, a possible robbery of personal property isn't really that big a deal. I mean, it's a case for Olympo, a pretty big and powerful group, but we're supposed to not factor that into things like that. And when you consider that on the other side of town, there's a recent assault case that Panthea was the first on the scene to, Ariane thought it'd be smart to head over there instead of here. Probably the right choice for Ariane, then. I'm assuming you are here for the theft case thing. Why else would I be in a building like this, if not for business? Just, making sure. Walked over and took a seat next to the windows. Cool, so it looks like we're gonna be working together again. Fun! Yeah, fun. Why did Olympo contact the private investigator when we haven't even been able to take a look around? They think that little of us. It's a mere formality, I'm sure, Seth. This is Olympo we're speaking of. They like to be thorough. No, I guess. My vision wandered. I ended up looking out the window aimlessly. Around this side of the building was a fairly extensive water feature. Connected right next to the wall, and had several little fountain things. I previously derided the space that this place took out as excessive, and that was likely an accurate assessment of the facts. Yeah. It was a little hard to stay angry at that when looking at a nice installation right like this. Maybe dismissing it as useless was small-minded. Perhaps the effect it had on morale was worthwhile in itself. What do you think, Lav? Turn back to those two. Oh, my apologies. Were you laboring under the misunderstanding that I was paying attention to you for the last minute? To be honest, I tuned out a decent bit ago. Yeah. Seth had to rein in a chuckle, while Baldera put on a pouty face. Really, Lav? Gonna do me like that? Look, it's a matter of efficiency. There's but so much idle chit-chat. I can intake before my mind swaps from investigative mode to a more casual one. A casual one, mind you, which has no place in an investigation. My tuning out was a deliberate attempt to prevent that occurrence. Well, that's a new one. The exchange was likely to continue for quite a bit. However, it was at this moment that we had a visitor who clearly didn't spend much time in waiting lounges. Art had entered the room. He was quite well dressed. His outfit was nearly indistinguishable from what he wore at the gala. I don't know if that spoke to how fancy he dressed at work, or how casual he dressed at the gala. Either way, it was impressive. Regardless, it was an undeniable fact that the outfit suited him. If I didn't know better, I'd even consider him quite handsome. Apologies on keeping you waiting. Running a company like Olympo is a taxing endeavor, I'm sure you can imagine. When I heard you had arrived, I made sure to come down and personally greet you just as soon as I had finished the matter that was at hand. I'd like to thank you for... Art had gotten this far in his explanation before he stopped to look at me. He probably was aware that I was in the room. He must have wrote me off as just some other visitor, one of the likely dozens that went in and out of this room every day. To me, this said that I hadn't left him a strong enough impression during our meeting at the gala. I couldn't tell if that was good or bad. Regardless, he recognized me now. With that recognition came a flare of annoyance. You. What exact business do you have here? Let me turn the question on you to test your aptitude for this profession. I am a world-class detective, and a busy one at that. Is there anything to your knowledge that may have summoned me to this room? Art sighed heavily. I assume you're referencing the theft. Aha! Perhaps we should switch jobs. Perhaps not. To rephrase my question, why are you here for the theft investigation? You doubt my bona fides? My, this is surprising. I find that oddly insulting. I have a website I can direct you to if you wish. It lists my past achievements quite blatantly. Peruse that and you'll see that I am more than appropriate here. No, I'd prefer not to. Again, it's not the qualifications which give me pause. It is the fact that you were not hired for this job. Wait, Lav, you weren't? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Naturally, I was hired. I can assure you that you weren't. I can assure you that she was. Hi, Odin. Odin. Art jumped up, startled. Fair enough. I barely noticed Odin slink his way into the room with a mischievous smile on his face. For such an imposing figure, he sure knew how to step silently. Ah, you're getting sloppy, Art. Odin smacked him on the back of the head. He had a friendly face, but the sound of the impact made it sound like it hurt. There was a time when I wasn't able to get the jump on you like this. What are you doing here, Odin? I was getting hungry. Decided it was time for a meal, so I was leaving for a nearby restaurant. I know you didn't want anybody on the restricted floor to leave, but with the whole incident and whatnot, I assume that I'm exempt from suspicion in this whole affair. Of course you are. And what exactly makes that the case? I decided to interject. An axiom of investigation. Those eager to exit a crime scene are oft the cause of said crime scene in the first place. Art shot me an incredibly dirty look. However, Odin began to laugh. How true. There is no good reason that I should be exempt from suspicion. It is pleasing to see at least one among you has the stones to speak their mind. See, this is why I hired you. Wait, Odin, you hired her? Of course I did. Didn't you hear me say that? Boy, I couldn't exactly trust the police with a job like this. And the fact that you did proves that you're still too naive to be without my supervision. After the job she did in the gala, I thought it'd be fun to invite Miss Laverna here. I thought she'd prove useful. Or, failing that, entertaining. I shall aim to do both. But aren't I useful, please? Seriously? Her? Some unknown private investigator. We're going to let her simply waltz all around the vault of this company. Oh, don't be such a dullard, Art. Honestly, it is such a nuisance that you end up being the least charismatic child. I expected that statement to flare Art up. Instead, he seemed to deflate. Then he gritted his teeth and turned to me. Fine. If my father has already purchased your services, it would be foolish not to make the most of you while you're here. I'll do my best to perform above your expectations. That won't be difficult. Excellent. Excellent. Glad to see that this has sorted itself out. Well, my hunger hasn't gone away. I expect this matter to be settled by the time I return, Art. Of course, Odin. Fantastic. With no other remarks, Odin turned around and exited the scene. He had conveniently dodged the question I raised about him being a suspect, but now wasn't the time to push my luck. Besides, he wasn't the thief. Well then. Appears you three will have to suffice. Don't worry, I can attest to the quality of Baldera and Seth. They make for excellent grunt workers, perfectly suited for aiding my investigations. Good to hear. Well, I suppose we should just get a move on. And like that, Art also turned and began to leave the room. Pressing a wave of his arm, he gestured for us to follow him. The four of us made our way back, around the receptionist's desk, this time walking to the other side of it. Further beyond the desk was a hallway which led to a set of sleek marble elevators. Art pressed a button, and without a moment's hesitation, the left door opened up. Ladies first. Art gestured into the elevator. Baldera and I entered, followed by Seth, with Art taking up the rear. The elevator had a whole tower of buttons. Art took out a white and gold keycard and placed it to a sensor on the elevator. Then he pressed a button with a star indicator next to it. The restricted floor, it seems. A few seconds later, the doors opened and we found ourselves on a new, pristine floor. Instantly, the fancy flooring gave off the indication that this was a place for the elite. I could already guess that much. Before we could go anywhere, however, we had to deal with security. Is this necessary? Wow. It's like that time they went to the airport. Indeed, the scene was akin to airport security. A large metal detector took up the center of the hallway. To the right of it was a metal desk that slid across either side of it. To the left, a tough-looking security guard stood motionless. This, Art waved his arms at the obvious display before us, is the restricted floor security. Thing meant to try and stop incidents like this from happening. And this here is Zeeth. Say hi, Zeeth. Hi. Hi, Zeeth. How are you doing on this fine day? Not particularly well. Oh, and why's that? Theft happened on my watch. Oh yeah, that's gotta put a damper on your step. Baldera, you're sweet. Well, hey, cheer up. Things will get better. To this, Zeeth just gave a small nod. Whenever anybody enters or leaves the floor, they have to go through this metal detector. Any metal objects on them, or any personal belongings, they are put on the desk and inspected by Zeeth. Well, I'll give you this. It's certainly thorough. Thoroughness is a motto of Olympo. A motto? How many mottos do you have at Olympo? And thoroughness isn't really a motto, just a mere one-word value. If Art had heard a single word I said, he didn't let it on. But, is this really necessary? It seems like a lot just to have it work. I assure you it is more than necessary. Given what's on this floor, we need to take such precautions. Some of the decorations on this floor, especially in my office and the meeting room, are worth enough for some to consider stealing. More important, of course, is all the information and data up here that is central to our business. At Olympo's level, corporate espionage is a major concern, which is why we are taking the current situation so seriously. So company property must be protected. Not to mention, company personnel. Now, who even has access to this floor is already strictly monitored. Still, you can never tell what will be too much for somebody. I fear the day where some vengeful employee will try and take a stab at me or someone else on this floor. A vengeful employee, Would you happen to know of anything that you've done which would engender such strong feelings? Any specific employees that come to mind? No. Of course, I simply ask because I feel it may be a potential motive for the current caper we find ourselves in the midst of. Given the nature of this case, I very much doubt revenge is the catalyst. Could we just keep on moving, please? On Seth's behest, we made our way forwards. Luckily, we didn't have to be subjected to the usual scrutiny of the security measures. Instead, we could walk right ahead, down the hallway, through the restricted floor. Art, could you be a doll and give us a bit of a rundown about what's on this floor? Might be useful for our investigation. Certainly. As you can see, there are a number of important rooms around here. These doors that we're passing, the ones on the left house important paper records. Business deals, contracts, that sort of thing. The ones on the right house Olympo's servers. Important doors indeed. Not to this case. They're so important that the doors to these rooms have an added layer of security. You need to scan a keycard to open them. The keycards require the highest level of clearance, and also log all entries in a highly encrypted third-party server. They haven't been accessed today. Good to get that out of the way then. To the right are a number of offices of our higher level members. However, our destination is to the left. We followed him down the winding hallway. Here to the left and the right are some high-end meeting rooms. Further down the hallway were two doors to rather large offices with glass walls. The office on the left had shut blinders all the way down. The office on the right had their blinders at the top. It was quite messy, with documents strewn all about. At present, a certain pink-haired employee was typing something on a laptop. The room to the left is my office, and the one to the right is my brother's. Oh, and farther down the hallway is the restrooms, if that becomes an issue. Wow, I'm surprised the CEO of this company has the same office as a chief director. Not my idea. Odin made it that way so that Polly wouldn't throw a fit. And Polly liked that we'd be right across from each other. He soon soured on that idea when he realized that it let me see just how often he wasn't working. If Polly really cared about that, why didn't he have his blinds down like you, Art? I kept that thought to myself. Does he have blinds? Is he sober enough to know how to use them? Art opened the office to the left and ushered us in. Even though it had similar architecture as the other office, there was clearly a world of difference. I say that. That was mean on my part. I apologize. Everything was nice and orderly and clean in its proper place. Contrast in its meaning couldn't be more on the nose. Art walked over to the other side of his desk and sat down on his chair. Baldera, Seth, and I just stayed standing. Nice place you got there. Indeed, I appreciate the minimalism present. I too indulge in the philosophy. My apartment contains no clutter whatsoever. This is only my office. I can assure you my penthouse apartment is quite lavishly decorated. However, such aesthetics would only serve to distract me during work time. We've already wasted far too much time on pleasantries. Let me cut to the chase. Yes, let's... Ooh, Art did not like me. I swear I wasn't doing this on purpose. Okay then. Cutting to it. It is on paper a fairly simple case of company property being stolen. A laptop, to be specific. It's used for several important business transactions. It has a lot of valuable information on it. I know it was on this floor this morning. That is because I used it this morning. I then left it in a cabinet attached to the table in one of our meeting offices. I will take you to said location momentarily. The important point is that many hours later, when I tried to use the laptop again, it was completely missing. I have had this entire floor searched, top to bottom, every nook and cranny, and the laptop has not shown up. these searches will continue. But at this point, I can only assume that the laptop and the information on it has been stolen. If that information ends up in the hands of one of our business rivals, it will damage our prospects quite severely. Between the time I last used it and the time I discovered it missing, a total of 3 employees exited this floor. However, each went through the security procedure I have already explained, and all passed by without any alerts. I have called the employees back, and they are waiting in a nearby room. Your job is to ascertain which, if any, of these employees is responsible for the theft. If it is one of them, I would appreciate it if you could make it clear how exactly they got the laptop past our security detail. If it is not one of them, I would then like the true culprit to be made clear, and for the location of the laptop to be revealed. Alright, seems simple enough. Really? Because, this kinda seems a bit, Seth hesitated, realizing who he was standing in front of. Yeah, impossible. In a sense, it is. However, that adds to the intrigue. Impossible crimes are the most interesting. At their heart is a contradiction, a false assumption, an illusion to the eye. These are the greatest truths to uncover. Does she always act like this? Yeah. My sympathies. I'm familiar with how draining it can be to work with these types. There's a reason that she's not actually a cop. That reason is I shan't be shackled. Well, should we get started then? The scene from which the laptop was stolen was the meeting room, on the other side of the hall. You three can go look around there while I prepare things for you. Prepare things for us? Raised a slight eyebrow at that. I've been poking the bear a bit too frequently. Instead, I followed Seth and Baldera out the room and over to the other meeting room. It looked quite nice. On the end of the room, opposite the door, there were big wall-sized windows. On the wall next to the room was a big TV mounted on the wall. Below it was a fancy cabinet with a number of drawers. It looked like they all slightly jutted out. Was that a thing with fancy cabinets? Seems more annoying than anything else. Near the walls were a number of still-life photographs on predatory animals hung up. In the center of the room was a long, oval-shaped table with a dozen chairs sat by it. Lovely place. Lovely little place. It's nice, I guess. Which one would be the head of a big corporation like this, Lav? Why would a god covet a crown of a man? Well, that's a new one. Over in the corner of the room, there was a little trash bin. I decided to walk over and give it a little look. At the bottom of the bin was a discarded coffee cup. So, what are we looking for? Beats me. I don't think we're gonna find much of use. How limited your reach is. You got any bright ideas? Several. Oh, you mean in regards to this case? Seth just sighed. Meanwhile, I took a seat at the opposite end of the table. Well, we have to do something. Just then a familiar face walked in. Oh, Zeeth, was it? Yes, that's right. Nice to see you again. What are you doing here? I was instructed to enter and aid with the investigation. I was the one who conducted the security checks of the suspects who left. Art thought I might be useful to have on hand when conducting the interviews. But don't worry about me not being at my post. Art thought of that. He got another guard to take up my shift. So I'm sensing that, I guess. Interviewing the suspects, eh? On that note, I have an important question for you. Very leisurely, I kicked back and placed my feet on the table. What rules out you as a possible suspect? It appears to be the simplest answer to how the thief scaled the wall was if the wall was in fact the thief. Why can't we trust you, Zeeth? There's a camera by the security station. It'll show that I was at my station the whole time. Tisk, tisk, tisk. A decent rebuttal, I must admit. However, you may not have been the active conspirator, but what say you an accomplice? What if you were working with a thief? Hey, Seth, you get on about how tiring Laverna is, which is true, but in the end, you seem quite eager to bounce off of her theories. I suppose when you see them as good ones. That's the distinction here. That's not likely. Martin walked into the room, not dissimilar to how his father had earlier. Our security guards, above all other employees, are screened and trained to the highest scrutiny. I am certain that Zeke doesn't have a disloyal bone in his body. How certain? Because everybody has a price. Thank you, sir. You can trust his account. Only willing to consider suspecting him when all other avenues have been exhausted. And seeing as you haven't yet interviewed any suspects, I suspect that is not yet the case. Well then, bring us the suspects. Art smiled. I'll do just that. Percy, get in here. Sure thing. Into the room rushed a fairly young-looking office worker. Judging by his apparent pit stains, the whole being a suspect thing was weighing on him. He nervously drummed his fingers across a leather briefcase he held in his hands. Hi, I'm Percy. I guess I'm a suspect? Apologies for his hapless behavior. No need. Percy, just calm down. Nothing bad is gonna happen. We're just gonna be asking some standard questions. I slammed my fist down onto the table. Guilty. Death. Tell us why you did it, Percy. Why'd you throw away your freedom? Why don't you want to see your mother anymore? Was it worth it? Was it worth it, Percy? Laverna, what the hell? Lav, go easy on the kid. He's clearly having a rough time of it. I sighed heavily. Well, way to ruin my blitz confession strategy, you two. Now I'll have to do things the old-fashioned way. Out of curiosity, does that tactic ever work? To prove it didn't would require testing it on every person on Earth. So, no. Percy, could you just tell us what you did? I don't know what to say. I need some files at a colleague who's sick and left on their desk. Percy doesn't usually work on the restricted floor. His office is on one of the lower levels. Right, so I got permission to come up, and I went to my colleague's office. It took me a bit to find, but once I did, I just left and went back to work. When the laptop was discovered as stolen, and I began looking into suspects, Percy was still working at his desk. Numerous other co-workers can attest he never went anywhere after returning. Anything suspicious about what he brought up or down? Both entering and exiting, he brought a suitcase. I put it through the metal detector and then checked it both times. Didn't trigger anything. Didn't see anything suspicious inside. Is it the same suitcase as the one you're holding right now, Percy? Sure. Here you go. Percy held the suitcase out, and Seth began rummaging through it. Is that all the pertinent information? Indeed. To be honest, Percy is the one I suspect the least. However, I am nothing if not thorough. One of your mottos. Indeed. Well, I got nothing in the suitcase. As far as I see it, Percy, you're free to go. For now. I put two of my fingers to my face, then moved them to his. Go and tell Herc to enter, okay, Percy? Percy timidly nodded, then swiftly exited the room. It was only a couple of moments later when an older man dressed similarly to the first entered. Oh, despite being at least in his 60s, I could tell he had a good bit of muscle on him. Hey, y'all, nice to be here. Gentlemen, ladies? Herc gave a brief bow. Herc's testimony is going to be quite important. Treat it with as much scrutiny as you wish. Are you sure it's a good idea to say that in front of the suspect? I don't mind it none. I welcome a challenge. Bring it on. Got no secrets to hide. My life's an open book. Alright then, Herc, if that is your name, mind telling us exactly what you did during the time frame when the laptop was stolen. Why, I was in this very room. Really? Of course, not the whole time. I think I entered a bit after Art left. I spent a good bit of the day cooped up in here. Left once to use the restroom, then left again shortly after that to get a nice refill on my morning cup of joe. I tell you, I could have sworn I'd only drunk a sip of it, and the next thing you know, it's empty. Really gotta cut back on that stuff. Think I might have a wee problem with it. I blame this one for that. Herc thumbed at Art. Shouldn't have put that cafe on the first floor. I strive to improve my employees' morale. So, Herc was here when you went to check for the laptop. He was. So that narrows the time frames when the laptop could have been stolen a fair bit, don't you think? Say, when exactly did Percy come up to look for the documents? Unfortunately for him, midway through this search, Herc decided to use the restroom, robbing him of an alibi. What can I say when nature calls? Zeeth, was there anything unordinary with Herc when he tried to go through the security detail? There was. Herc can't go through the metal detector without setting it off. Is that right? Yeah. All dental work, I'm afraid. Real pain in the ass. Bothers me every time I come here for work. Luckily, me and Zeeth here have worked out a workaround. And that is, Herc puts his body through the metal detector while keeping his head stuck out. Then he walks around it. Seriously? It's effective. So you're saying Herc's head is injected in the metal detector? Hey, if you want to excuse me of smuggling out a laptop in my mouth, by all means, be my guest. I didn't have a clever comeback to that. Any other questions? Yeah, I have one. What are you doing in this room in the first place? I thought this was a meeting room. What can I say? I like my space. This room's airy. The office is stuffy. Figure nobody's using it today, might as well do my work in there. Which, I may add, is against company policy. It got me, Chief. It's been the last day I do it. See to it that that's the case. While you're at it, go grab Darda for me. I'll own it. Hold on a second. You don't get to dismiss our suspects. We dismiss them when we're good and ready. You are dismissed. With a half-cocked smile, Herc turned around and left the room. A bit of information about our next suspect. This is the only person who actually left the building during the time frame of the theft. This gives her ample opportunity. I'm catching your drift. So this is our prime suspect. Judge for yourself. As if it was timed out, just then was when a blonde woman wearing black clothes and sunglasses arrived. Nice style. The woman walked further into the room and pulled out a chair, then sat down and crossed her legs. Well, you have me. I was called back from a pressing prior engagement, so this had better be worth it. And that engagement was? Is that pertinent to your investigation? It might be. Well, if it is, then I'll tell you. Up until that point, I'll keep it to myself. So you just waltzed right out of the building in the middle of the day? I had clearance for it. Everything was totally standard. Darda, would you mind just walking us through your day? Not much to walk through. I came in on time, did my job in my actual office, on this floor. Left in the middle of the day. Later received a call that I had to return because some idiot thought it'd be a good idea to steal a laptop in broad daylight. I assume she left after Herc strips away from the room. Of course. Zeeth, my man, you know what I'm after. Hit me up with those security deeds. She passed the metal detector easily. Entering and exiting, she slid a book down to the metal desk. Tangled Trysts, hardback edition. I like to keep up to date on new releases in the literature world. The romance. Ooh, romance? Mystery, actually. Although I'm beginning to fear it might not be a particularly good one. I did my due diligence. Flipped through the pages, made sure there wasn't anything else in the book. There wasn't. Well, there you have it. I couldn't have taken the laptop. If you ask me, the laptop hasn't left the floor. It's just hidden somewhere that we haven't found yet. I didn't bring you in here for the running. It didn't bring you in for the running commentary, Darda. But can I leave? Can't imagine there's anything else I could be of use for. Yes, retreat to your cave. The unspoken part of that sentence, old bat. Instead of responding to that, Darda simply stood up, turned around, and walked out. Well, what do you make of that? You know, it certainly is a head-scratcher. Not really a clear answer present. If there were a clear answer, I would not have involved the police. I feel like we should investigate the bathroom. Vastly prefer using our in-house security team whenever possible. Truly an impressive caper. If I didn't know better, I'd say a theft of this beauty was the work of the auto-larcenist. Well, let's get thinking. Anyway, any of those three could have smuggled the laptop past security. I don't think so, but let's try putting our heads together on this one. I got off my seat and began to pace. Time to put my brain into action. Obviously, I already know how part of it happened, but I was completely in the dark on a bunch of details. Until I had an explanation for those details, I didn't feel confident speaking up. Baldera sighed and looked to the floor. Man, it's a real bummer. It's times like this I miss Issa. He would have known what to do. He was great with things like this. Hey, what do you say about this? We shouldn't even talk about it. It's not healthy. Seth looked even more uncomfortable than usual. Looked over. Out the large window to the side, who is Issa? Below it was the rather large water feature. You know, in this height and perspective, it didn't quite look as impressive. I tried to open the window. However, as soon as I pushed it up, a loud noise began to play through the room. Hello. Baldera and Seth both put their hands to their ears. Art, on the other hand, looked irritated and pulled out his phone. A few taps of the screen, the noise died down. What the blazes was that? A facet of our security system. Although usually it just logs the event. It only set off an alarm because I set things to red alert mode ever since the theft. Whenever a window is open, it passes by a sensor. See, it's right there. Art pointed, and sure enough, there was a discrete sensor at the side of the windowsill. That's probably how you know how the windows were used in this, right? Naturally. Looked closer at the sensor. At first glance, indeed, it looked like opening the window would trigger it. However, that wasn't technically true. The sensor was placed about half an inch above where the window would begin to slide open. Too thin for a laptop, sure, but still. Now I understood. Meanwhile, while I was looking at this, Baldera and Seth had been theorizing without me. What about Percy? Didn't like the look of that boy. What? Why didn't you like the look of him? Squirrely fellow, too nervous for his own good. Sure that the suitcase didn't have some hidey hole for storing things. Maybe one laced with something to evade a metal detector. Looked over the suitcase myself, and I didn't find anything like that. Looked over this suitcase. But remember, he went back down to his office on the lower floors a while ago. He could have switched the cases. Didn't his co-workers say that he stayed in his office the whole time? Where'd that swapped case go? More importantly, you're not thinking about the important parts. Remember the time frame. Herc went to the restroom after Percy entered the floor. You couldn't have counted on Herc leaving like that. The frame's too tight. You can't use that as evidence. After all, Percy also couldn't have counted on Herc showing up in that room in the first place. It sounded to me like that was just a whim. If you're factoring in bad luck for the thief, you can also factor in good luck. Here's a question. How did the thief even know the laptop was there in the locker? That just balances it out. I don't think it works like that. At any rate, I think we can safely rule Herc out. What culprit would reduce the suspect pool like that? Seems like a really dumb idea to me. So what? The culprit's down by default? I mean, she did leave the building. She easily could have dumped the thing while she was gone. But how would she get past the security detail? I don't know, that's the whole problem with this thing. Oh, this whole mess is too confusing for me. Are we sure that the laptop ever even left? Fancy place like this, I wouldn't be surprised if there were like super secret hidey holes for stashing secrets. Somebody could have just hidden the laptop there. To what end? I don't know, to cause a stir? I don't see how that helps anyone. Besides, some people just want to watch the world burn, and there's nothing ordinary folks like you and me can do about that. Baldera, just because you watched The Dark Knight last night. Wait. Say that again. I don't see how that helps anyone. You don't need to see it, just do it. It'll cause a stir? Before that. You've, lost me, Laverna. I'll be honest, I don't remember that far back. Super secret hidey hole? Yes, thank you, human stenographer. Stenographers are already human. Hence, human stenographer. Anyways, Eureka. I rushed over to the other side of the room. There, I grabbed a hold of the cabinet. Began to yank off the drawers. Hey, whoa, what on earth are you doing? That's mahogany. That cabinet is priceless. The only thing that is priceless is the truth. Inside this cabinet's the type where you can slide the drawers off. That's correct. How do you know that? Because the culprit had to place them back after storing this. Triumphantly, I reached forwards and grabbed the computer from the back of the dresser. I displayed it with a grand smile. What the? Lav! Whoa, hey, what's that doing there? Lav, how'd you find this? The drawer is jutting out like that. It struck me as odd from the moment I walked into this room. However, when you spoke for hidey holes, I realized that was no design choice. It was the metaphorical telltale heart our culprit had left under the floorboards. Or in this case, behind the drawers. Still, to hide a computer in a place like this, I didn't think that was possible. It's actually a semi-common hiding spot. Not even closets are built like that, with a bit of wiggle room behind the drawers. Sort of like a false bottom. Yes, except in this case, the false bottom is often unintentional. I'm surprised, Art. I would have taken you for a man who knew terms like that. Ah, well, if your brother wants to be magician for a few years, you end up picking up a few things along the way. Really? Polly never did strike me as the magical type. Art looked confused. Wrong brother? Polly, your younger brother. You just said he wanted to be a magician. Oh, right, yes. Yes, he, never had the right stage presence for it. There's a third brother, isn't there? Another time. I set the laptop on the table and opened it. When I opened it, the insides were stained with coffee. It stayed firmly turned off as I pressed buttons. Aha! And just as I suspected. You did? I think the case of events here is painfully simple. The culprit made their move when Herc went to the restroom. said he didn't remember drinking all his coffee. I think he was correct. The culprit opened the computer, did their dastardly deed, then poured the coffee all over the laptop, rendering it useless. And they decided to dispose of the corpse in this very room, and they must have thought of the old drawer trick. Perhaps they had even scoped that out in advance. Then they left, simple as that. Amazing! No, not amazing, not simple as that. What's the point? And if they're trying to steal the data off the laptop, feels like the thief failed. I clicked my tongue. Oh, poor naive Seth. This is the modern era. There's more than one way to transport data. The thief likely opened the laptop and transferred all the relevant data to an easy-to-conceal flash drive. With that, no need for the actual computer. Okay, maybe so, but in that case, why bother hiding his computer? The culprit made it look like the actual computer was gone. That would limit how it could have been smuggled out of the building, and narrow the suspects. It would throw off the investigation. It needs to make bad assumptions like the ones we've been making. Why make it a case at all? Would they have just left the laptop in the drawer and nobody be any the wiser about the robbery? But once Art came back and found the laptop covered in coffee, the fact that it had been tampered with would already have become obvious. Well, why throw coffee on it then? That I couldn't answer. It was a critical question. It was why this whole thing even became an incident. But despite how much I knew, I didn't have a clue. To my surprise, it was Art that spoke up. I have an idea. The thief must have triggered the Melazine software security. Then, realizing we had no clue what that meant, it took a second to explain. Basically, it's something on the laptop that would keep a log of actions. Sort of a secondary security system. At this point, surely it's tertiary. Perhaps. Regardless, if they became wise to that, they'd realize that whenever the laptop was next checked, I'd be able to tell it was altered. At that point, I'd probably already suspect the theft. So why not make it look like a physical job? As Laverna wisely pointed out, it would thoroughly mislead us. Alright. So that means we're not looking for somebody who stole a laptop, we're looking for somebody who stole a flash drive. That changes things. Wait, what about that daughter lady? She had that book, right? You know I had a flash drive in a book. No, didn't Zeke say he flipped through that? In my opinion, the one that suddenly got a lot more suspicious is Herc. He said to try and prove that he fit a laptop in his mouth. I might not be able to fit a laptop in his mouth, but I think a flash drive he could muster. Really? Think he could carry a conversation with a flash drive in his mouth? Did they have a conversation? And whatever. Even if he did, I say you can talk and hide a flash drive. Honestly, with this, I'm not sure we can even live with the suspects or those three anymore. The murder here just proved that there are still possible hiding spots left to be discovered. I think it's a lot easier to hide a flash drive than a laptop. The possibility that someone stored it away for later has risen a lot. Oh boy, we're just right in here. So no prompting. Okay. So... Notice the digital security system. Notice the digital security system. So, download the data on the USB, and oh, okay. So, notice the digital security system, because download the data on the USB. So, broke the laptop, and smoked it out the window. Broke the laptop because oh boy, this is a lot to think about. Broke the laptop because you notice the digital security system. What? And wanted to frame someone here. So, download the data on the USB. This is where the ore doesn't fit in. That's the end we're getting at here. I feel like this logic is almost right. We just might swap the or and. Broke the laptop because no digital security system, or wanted to frame someone here. So, download the data on the USB and smoke it out the window. I don't know if this is just going to kick me out after all this presentation for being wrong. And smoke it out the window. Oh yeah, first try every time. Logic game too strong, baby. I walked over to the window and chuckled. Oh, you guys. You never truly can see the larger picture. Why wait? There's a perfectly good escape hatch right here. I knocked on the glass gently. Miss Laverna, I did already speak to you about the security system, did I not? You did. However, I'm afraid your system isn't quite as secure as you may believe, Mr. Desma. You see, I believe I can raise this window about 1/2 inch, where the sensors go off. That may not be much, but with the many ways you can store technology nowadays, I'm fully sure you could find something to fit through that crack. While I was walking, Baldera walked over beside me. But hold on a second, Lav. Isn't there a problem here? Look down below. There's a big water feature right on the side of this building. If you drop something down there, wouldn't it get soaked?
I don't think you can even get enough momentum through that small crack to send the flash drive past that water feature. And I think the fall might also be a bit of an issue.
So then simply don't have the flash drive fall in the water. You keep saying these things without explaining yourself. Baldera, you remember the waiting room on the first floor? How lovely it was. Baldera's face sparkled with recognition. It was right next to the water feature. By Jove, I think she's got it. I propose this was a two-person job. One was somebody with access to this restricted floor, though I can't say who. As far as I see it, anyone who was present when Herc went to the restroom, as well as Herc himself, they are all possible suspects. Though if I were to guess, after the gambit the thief pulled, I imagine they'd try to cover their image by not leaving the floor. Whoever it is, they conspired with a partner who played the part of visitor and went to that waiting lobby. The two communicated via text, and at the right time, Visitor opened the waiting lobby's window and caught the falling flash drive. Hell of a catch. And just like that, the Olympo heist is complete. With this, I gave a large bow. To my surprise, it was Art who first began with some golf claps. My. Must admit, Miss Laverna, it appears I judged you too harshly. Big enough man to admit when I'm misguided. Appears you are, in fact, quite competent, eccentricities aside. I only try my best. So hold on, shouldn't we go to the front desk right now? Like, maybe we can't figure out the culprit from the people on this floor. We've got a whole second avenue to pursue. Don't waste the front desk's time. I've got a better idea. Come, follow me. Art left the room and we followed him. He made his way into his office. There he pulled up his laptop and began furiously typing. Finally pushed the laptop in the direction of Baldera. There you go. Look away. Oh, I don't mind if I do. Smirk, Baldera took a seat and began going to work. See from this angle that it was some sort of security footage.
So, Mr. Dayspa, you think that we're gonna get a lead with that?
To be honest, I somewhat doubt it. I mean, so many people come in here every day. That waiting lobby has had dozens upon dozens of visitors on a daily basis. Unfortunately, we don't have an angle that actually showcases the window. We could see somebody try and catch that flash drive. But you know, I had the technology. I guess I felt this was a chance to try and get some use out of it. Lav? Baldera's tone was extremely hesitant. Yes? What's this about? Baldera pointed to the screen with a worried look on her face. Leaned in closer, then recoiled. What the? How the hell was I seeing this? Meanwhile, Art continued rambling. You see, this Melazine security system really is really thorough. For instance, there are decoy security cameras. And then are also a bunch of hidden real ones. This one, for instance, is in a picture hanging on the wall in the waiting lobby. A screen. There's a figure wearing a dark green hoodie and sunglasses. Their face, it was unmistakable. It was mine? I had been looking at this. Seth also came to see what was going on. Seeing the screen, he looked at me and spoke in a deadly serious voice.
Laverna, what is this?
I sighed. Didn't want to go here. Suppose my twin sister is due a call. Twins? Really? Boo, what a hack. Although I do appreciate the irony of having the detective character break Nox's 10th. Still, you hate to see a twin in a work of mystery. At this point, I'm tempted to write off every modern tale involving a twin as trash. Context be damned. Because at this point, it's just a sign of laziness. A crutch, if anything. Oh well, not much we can do. After all, these are real events, not just a script. Believe me, I'd admit all this had it not actually happened. Even now, I'm still tempted. the very least, I'm grateful it wasn't used for a twist. Now that would be bullshit. But learning about it now, it's like, okay, there's a twin. We know that. That's logged. Hey, there was more to this scene than the last few moments, wasn't there? Sorry, that twin reveal completely knocked off my train of thought. Well, in my defense, it's not like all that other stuff was all that interesting. Corporate espionage, whoop-de-doo. We're discussing mystery rules. Van Dyne's 7th applies pretty keenly right about now, I think. If it's not a murder, I don't give a shit. Kinda doubt this stolen USB shit is going to have any real effect on things. Why couldn't we do more with the Cock Robin killings? Because it's Cock Robin. And I have to stop myself from laughing. Van Dyke's. Van Dyne's 7th is forbidden to have a crime without a corpse. Oh, speaking of, did you catch at the start of the scene? We got an answer to our bet. Autopsies revealed that Max died roughly when the party was getting started. In other words, way before Ethan apparently died. Now, I guess this isn't, like, airtight. The autopsy's faked. The Ethan died earlier and the person at the party was a body double. Be some third weird shit. But for now, I'm just going to call it. And if anything comes up later, then I'll reverse the bet. For now, though, I'm ruling the bet in my favor, and thusly the chips stay with me. So sorry. Perhaps you'll have better luck next time. Anyways, I could talk more about this scene, I guess. I'm not particularly inclined to, and I never want our chats to feel like a drag. So then I guess I'll be out of your hair. Oh. Alright then. Fair enough. I suppose we'll go back to Locke next time. This has been a hell of a show. It's quite the thing to just drop in our laps like that. Guess I've got a twin. But fair enough. I'll leave it here, then. I will say that, okay, he was wearing sunglasses. The question probably becomes, I heard green hoodie and I thought, is that a Zodiac trial reference? Perhaps. But this was a good deduction segment. Even if we aren't getting answers to our mysteries this early on, that was still a fun deduction segment, I think. It certainly sets up more intrigue to come. For now, though, until next time, until then, thanks for watching.